Clearly. Right. So those 3 wind farms were first installed. And this is a picture of the wind farm near Storm Lake. Look at those turbines. Those were lattice towers. And anybody notice? Look at the color of the blades. They're black. Does anybody see black wind turbine blades anymore? No. These are probably the only black blades ever built, I think, in the United States. Used were in these 2 wind farms by Storm Lake. And nobody puts lattice towers up anymore. And so this wind farm was designed by people that lived in Southern California where they never had any ice storms. And they were looking at the anemometer test data from this site. The anemometers that were up here prior to the turbines. And they noticed that after an ice storm, those anemometers quit turning. They got frozen, and they would stay frozen for days and days and days at a time. And the developers in Southern California said, oh gosh, what do we do if that happens to our winter blades? If you get ice on the blades, they just don't really generate any power at all. It's amazing. Like a quarter or a half inch thick layer of ice on the blade, and the blade cannot generate any lift or power. It was barely turn around. So it really reduces the power they can put out. So the engineers in Southern California said, let's make these blades black, so when the sun comes out after ice storm, they'll melt off. And so that's what they did. And in 2002, I was asked, I co-authored a study here with another gentleman, Tom Factor, and we looked at an absurd thing. Could Iowa have 2,000 megawatts of wind power in the state? Was it possible? Could we even connect it to the transmission grid? And the study conclusion was, well, yes, we could do it. We could do it with the power of Des Moines, and it could be at a reasonable price. Well, everyone thought that this study was not true. Everybody thought it was not true, and that it was a crazy idea to even attempt to do this. Even one of the co-authors thought that, and that was me. But the other guy, he was more optimistic. So more large wind farms were installed. And after that mandate, in 2002, there was a wind farm in Hancock County. And then there was one in Dickinson County. And all of these were developed by private developers. They were usually electric utilities outside of Iowa, because that 2% mandate said the utilities could not own the wind turbines. They wanted to incentivize third parties to come and bring capital and be more competitive than the utility. And so they were not allowed to do that. And so by the end of 2003, there was about twice as much wind power as what the mandate was. About 4% of Iowa's electricity was coming from wind power. And there were more policy changes, and I'll get into all these. But anyway, policy changes that were made at the utility board to make it easier to build wind farms. And they also let utilities own the wind turbines. And they pre-approved it. So Mid-America would go in and say, we want to build a 200 megawatt wind farm. It's going to cost $475 million. We want your approval ahead of time that when we come around and ask for to increase our rates, that you will agree that with all of our numbers that we put this in, we'll add this to our rate increase so that we get a return on it. And then one other key decision is made, just crucial, is that the state, I don't know who these people were, said, we got to give a little boost in the profit that utilities can make when they invest in the good things, renewable energy. And so they upped the return on investment by the slightest amount, like 0.1%. For example, if you had $1 billion invested in electric structure, and the utility board allowed 8% return on it, 80%. If it was a wind turbine investment, it might be 8.1%. bit more incentive to say, oh, well, we're going to let you make a little bit more money on your generation. Not a big deal. But was it a big deal? It was Mid-American Energy. It's owned by Berkshire Hathaway. And what's one thing that Berkshire Hathaway does very good? They make money. And they pay a lot of income taxes, corporate income taxes. Could they use tax credits? You bet they could. And so they have a great appetite for using tax credits, which the federal government gave tax credits for wind power. So that was all that was necessary in a way utilities went. And another thing they did is the state of Iowa provided incentives for community-owned wind generation projects. It was a 10-year, 1.5 cent per kilowatt hour saleable tax credit. Community, that's what I'm involved with. And so after that was passed, we built the Hardin Hilltop Wind Farm. Remember those 7 turbines right north of Jefferson. Here's the 7 owners down there of those turbines. And then here's a map of Jefferson. We're over by Grand Junction. We're looking over. Here's the Hardin Hilltop with 7 turbines there. And then Bill Sutton and I added the Junction Hilltop Wind Farm, 5 turbines run by Dana, Iowa. And these 5 turbines feed power into a little substation right across from the ethanol plant. We drive this ethanol plant. And so all of this wind power really essentially ends up going to the ethanol plant, although we sell it to the plant rather than the ethanol. So there's 2 community wind farms that were built right here in Jefferson. Bill Sutton and I were involved in both of those. But there's 245 people in Iowa that own a share of a wind turbine. 245 community members that own a share. A lot of people down in the Greenfield area own about 11 turbines down there. And how many of you have ever been inside the base of a wind turbine before? Yeah, my relatives. Anybody else? Barry, yes. Chuck, anybody? Okay, one more. Yes, you. One more question. Has anybody been up a ladder into the nacelle? My sister Janet, my wife has gone, of course Harold has, she's not. So 2 people, and Marshall, who was that old Marshall lady that lives over by the Peyton area? Helen Marshall. She attempted applying for wind turbine. Soon my wife attempted to. Helen got about 20 steps and gave up. How old she was. This is like 7 years ago. Yeah. So anyway, for those of you that are not going to climb a wind turbine, inside, here's kind of what it looks like. You're standing on the cell looking at the blade out there. And here's the big main shaft, which is about 18, 20 inches in diameter. We're looking out toward the hub here. And here's the gearbox right here that speeds up the power. Here a guy is inside the hub of the wind turbine, where the 3 blades are attached. Inside of that is looking at the blade. Here's the blade that's bolted on there. And there's a piece of cardboard, plywood out there to keep you from falling down on the blade. He's inside the blade there.
How much of that equipment weight inside the cabin doing the top?
How much does equipment weigh inside the what?
On the very top.
Well, like the machine head, I'm guessing 40,000 pounds, 50,000 pounds. The blades are probably 12,000 pounds each. The hub is probably 20,000 pounds, kind of thing. And then also other policy, the Iowa Power Fund, which was built by Chet Culver, invested money in research. So as a result, because of all of this stuff, starting with Harold Overland at the Spirit Lake School, all those visionary people and that guy at Boondocks Motel, how many people saw that wind turbine at the Boondocks Motel? Everybody got on fire, and the one there. All of these people that stuck their neck out and did these things, way before it was economical, maybe. They all contribute in some way to today, there are 7,000 wind turbines in Iowa, a huge industry. There's 10,000 megawatts of engineering capacity.
Hey, explain what a megawatt is.
It's a lot of power.
How many toasters, for example?
Yeah, 1,000 toasters. 1,000 toasters. A wind turbine typically has about 2 megawatts. So a wind turbine, a full wind, 2,000 toasters. One time. So, this is about 10 years ago. Here's where the wind turbines were put. And here's a wind speed map of Iowa. Again, the red areas are the windiest areas, and the green and blue areas are the least windy. You know, this is the river channel, is the one river right there in the Mississippi Valley. And you can see all the wind turbines, of course, are put in the windiest areas. And here, Greene County, there's the Churdan hilltop north of Jefferson, there's one's by 10, and this is the River Valley. And since that time, more wind power. This is a little format here. And these are all the wind farms in the state line. Here's the western boundary of Iowa, here's the north boundary over here, southern boundary down here. And since that 2012, there have been more wind turbines put down in the Creston, southern area. There's a whole bunch of turbines over by Oskaloosa over here. A lot less in some areas that have been filled out over here, further west. So a tremendous amount of wind power. And the transmission grid is full. It is chock full. You can put much more wind power in that. And then if you broaden out and look at what's happening in the United States, here's the large wind farms in the United States. Again, from Texas, the leader of wind power, has the most number of turbines. Iowa is number 2 or number 3, depends where Oklahoma and Kansas go back and forth. But you can see the windy spot, the windy areas here. And again, the Dakotas, not as much, because there's just not as many people here. But Iowa, I think I almost signed here. But Iowa, about 2/3 of its power comes from wind power on an average basis. 2/3. So when you put something into the light line, there's a pretty good chance that kilowatt hour was generated from a wind turbine here in Iowa. The highest percentage in the United States. The highest percentage in the United States. So what's the impact of renewable energy? Well, here is a graph showing the sources of electricity, where we get the energy to generate electricity in the United States. From 2005 about 2022. And when I first started working for the utility, you have to go back this way about 30 years over here. When I first started, coal was about that level right there. And you see it's leveled off. Nobody has built a large coal-fired power plant for like 30 years in the United States. Nobody has. It's a dirty fuel. But natural gas has risen. And because it's become cheaper, because of fracking primarily, and it is when you generate electricity from natural gas, you get half as much carbon dioxide, half as much greenhouse gases. And natural gas is just cleaner. There's no sulfur in it. You dig coal out of the ground, you get all types of impurities in that coal. And so you have to clean all that out of your furnaces. And all during this time, nuclear has been about the same, but renewables, this is primarily all hydroelectric power, primarily the Pacific Northwest. And the growth we see in renewables is primarily from wind power right there. So a combination of natural gas and renewable energy has driven down the use of coal, the dirtiest fuel by far. Don't get me wrong, coal was a great resource. It powered our nation, it brought prosperity, it just did wonders things. But it was a terribly dirty fuel, and it gets to be more and more expensive to clean it up over time. It's just at a point that wind power is the cheapest form of new electricity generation there is in the United States. So, I've contributed a tiny bit to this transformation that has occurred in my career. I never thought it would happen this quickly that we could transform our generation from using coal to renewable energy. And Why was I involved with it? Why did I participate in it? Well, I just had the right last name. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Can you go back to this last slide you showed? Under renewables, what would you estimate that would be wind, then also solar? How would that break out?
Yeah, today in the United States, wind farms provides about 10% of the electricity in the United States. 10%. In like Iowa, it's like 66%. Solar is about between 1 and 2% of the electricity in the United States now. In Iowa, it's hardly very low in Iowa.
You want to try to project 10 years?
I'm not very good at projecting.
This,
If all the people are not in the Dakotas and Nebraska, why don't we put all these wind turbines out there? Because a lot of people complain about what they look like.